You are Locked On Pistons Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Detroit on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Pistons stumbled down the stretch and the Clippers get the win, 123-115, a 50-burger for James Harden. Welcome into a live Locked On Pistons postcast. It's late night, but that's all right. I'm not tired. I am your host, Jake Riepma. You can follow me on Twitter at Jake_Riepma. And thanks for making the Locked On Pistons postcast your postgame destination. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, it's on YouTube. You got to subscribe at Locked On Sports Detroit. This is your post-game destination, a live reaction show. Make sure you check out Locked On Pistons with Ku Kahil. And don't forget, your favorite podcast now has a newsletter introducing the Locked On Pistons Daily's new newsletter. It's your one-stop for Ultimate Team and League coverage, and it's delivered right to your inbox for free. You got to sign up at LockedOnDaily.com and start your day with the all-new free Locked On Pistons newsletter. Here's what's coming up on today's show. Tonight's show, tomorrow's show, since we're technically into Thursday now as we hop on a live Locked On Pistons postcast, but it was an off night for the Detroit Pistons. We'll highlight areas they struggled, especially down the stretch. I'll have my turning point of the game and our player of the game. That's all coming up on a live Locked On Pistons postcast. But first, a 50-burger for James Harden. My goodness. He drops 50 points, season high for James Harden. JB Bickerstaff in the postgame essentially said we couldn't guard him physically enough, and he got to the free throw line. And when the referees choose to call the games the way that they did tonight, there's no chance for the opposition when James Harden is playing the way he did. But my goodness, that was the takeaway from this evening's game, because it was a tie game at 99 before the Clippers started to gain all the momentum and ultimately outscore the Pistons down the stretch 24-16. And that is exactly the margin of victory for the LA Clippers, who the Pistons with the loss fall to 35-27, 18-13 away from home. So 1-1 on this West Coast road trip now for the Pistons. That has included a win over the Utah Jazz, a loss to the Clippers, and then two more on the West Coast, including Saturday's game against the Warriors, and then a back-to-back Sunday's game against the Trailblazers. But I think this is a bad loss. You can chalk it up as a bad loss for a couple of things, but mostly the second night of a back-to-back for the Clippers. And I know if you watched the broadcast, you heard George Blaha and Special K talk about how desperate the Clippers were because they blew a 16-point lead last night to the Suns. Sure, that might be the case, but make no mistake about it, this Clippers team was so shorthanded, and they were a team that was not working with full strength. They were the ones on the second night of a back-to-back. I mean, you look at who the Clippers were missing tonight: no Kawhi Leonard, no Norman Powell, no Ben Simmons, and no Derrick Jones Jr., all out against the Pistons, who were at full strength. And you choose to play an off night and ultimately let James Harden and Bogdanović run away with it for the LA Clippers and chalk one in the L column for the Detroit Pistons. You can't let two guys beat you in the National Basketball Association, and that's exactly what the Pistons did tonight, or more, I should say, the Clippers did to the Pistons, and Detroit allowed to happen. And they were wearing my favorite uniforms, the bad to the bones 313 uniforms with the black and orange. They're not supposed to lose in those uniforms. Golly, that just occurred to me. What the heck? They're not supposed to lose in those uniforms. They're supposed to be unbeaten in those uniforms. I'll have to check what their actual record is. But 123-115, the final. And James Harden, 50-point game, season high. My friends, when you think about what James Harden did and how good he was tonight, there's no doubt about it that that's what we'll be talking about.
This is what you'll be talking about.
For Harden, it was 50 points, but the way he got those points, a lot at the free throw line, and that's what JB Bickerstaff was talking about post-game. You look at James Harden's final stat line, very impressive, 14 of 24, 6 of 13 from the long line, but 16 made free throws from the charity stripe. He was plus 13 for 50 points total. And again, you point at how he was able to get that done and why the Detroit Pistons lost this game. There's a lot to make of it from that perspective. But in any case, Detroit's got to find a way to you can't give up the way the fourth quarter went for the LA Clippers with the 10-0 run that we'll talk about here, as well as the way that the Clippers were just more effective and executed at a higher level in that fourth quarter there. So bear with me here as I get the settings on the old ring light. That's the term I'm looking for here. Something's happening to the lighting there that we're going to figure out if you're watching live. That's the beauty of a live broadcast. So here we go. That being said, Cade was good tonight. I thought he was really impressive down the stretch. Not so much. And he turned the ball over a couple of times, which made it tough. But ultimately, you look at his stat line, 37 points. He was minus 10, 15 of 25, 2 of 7 from the three-point line. Malik Beasley had an off night tonight, no doubt about it. Just 4 of 10 from the long line, 5 of 12 overall, but he was minus 16. And Dennis Schroder, that was a real positive for the Pistons. I thought he played really well. 8 of 14 from the floor. He had 21 points. He was plus 8, 5 of 9 from the long line. But when he is your second leading scorer, I think your team is struggling a little bit, and he had 21 points. But it is worth noting how well Dennis Schroder played tonight. That's what I make of it. I know we've got a couple people checking in on late night, which we appreciate. So we'll get to those comments now. Demetrius McNeil says, James bleeping Harden. It's all this is. On to the Warriors Saturday night. Yeah, you really can look at this game and say James Harden had the hot hand. There is no doubt about it. All right, we are going to take a quick timeout. I'll have my turning point and the player of the game on the other side. Don't go anywhere. Get your comments in. It's alive. Locked On Pistons Postcast. This episode of the Locked On Pistons Postcast is brought to you by Open Phone. That's right. Listen up and listen good. Running a small business means you're wearing a lot of hats, my friends. Your personal phone becomes your business phone. Before you know it, you're juggling customer calls day and night. As your team grows, it becomes impossible. That's right, impossible to manage everything with just your personal phone number. That's where Open Phone comes in. It's the #1 business phone system designed to help you keep your work and personal life separate. Doesn't that sound good? Because for just $15 a month, the cost of a few coffees, that's all it is, folks. You get complete transparency and visibility into everything happening with your business phone number. Open Phone works through an app on your phone or computer and integrates with tools like HubSpot and hundreds of others. It also uses AI-powered call transcripts and summaries, so you'll have a rundown of your calls and action items the second you hang up. Doesn't that improve efficiency, my friends? And guess what? If you miss a call, no problem. Automated messages are sent directly to your customer, ensuring you never miss an opportunity to engage. Right now, Open Phone is offering 20% off your first order for 6 months when you go to openphone.com/lockedonnba. That's openphone, openphone.com/lockedonnba for 20% off your 6 months. Openphone.com/lockedonnba. And if you have existing numbers with another service, Open Phone will port them over at no extra charge. Today's episode also is brought to you by BetterHelp. That's right. Listen up, because BetterHelp is a sponsor of today's episode. Who's in your support system? We all need people to lean on, whether it's friends, family, mentors, or professionals. Even the strongest leaders and athletes know that asking for help makes them better. Therapy is one of the best ways to build a strong support system, and it's not just for tough times. It helps with setting boundaries, developing coping skills, and becoming the best version of yourself. And there's everyday benefits to it. Therapy isn't just about the crisis moments. No, it's the total tool for self-improvement, stress management, and navigating life's challenges. And the great thing about BetterHelp is it's convenient and accessible. BetterHelp is fully online, making it easier than ever to connect with a licensed therapist from anywhere. With over 30,000 professionals available, you can find the right fit and switch anytime at no extra cost. Build your support system with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Pistons fall to the Clippers, now 1-1 on the 4-game West Coast road trip. And unfortunately for the Pistons, I think they'll look back at this game and say, this is one we could have had. Still playing a very good brand of basketball. There's no doubt about it. We've talked on that, or we touched on that at length, because it is exactly the way it's been for the Pistons, in that they've had a resurgence and played really good basketball. I mean, you're talking about a team that's still 9-2 in their last 11. So let's, not get, and I'm talking to myself here, let's not get too, I guess reactionary is a good way to put it, because I have a tendency to do that. You witness a poor game like this, where it's the second night of a back-to-back for the opposition. They're down a bunch of guys health-wise, and you still go out and lay an egg. And that in and of itself is disappointing. But without further ado, where this one really turned, I mentioned it, tie game late in the fourth quarter until the LA Clippers went on a run.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
It is the turning point. The 10-0 run for the LA Clippers in the fourth quarter. Game tied, or rather the Pistons had a 2-point lead, 99-97. And off went the LA Clippers on that 10-0 run. A couple of threes by Bogdanovic, James Harden with a dunk in transition, a couple more free throws. And before you know it, the Clippers had the 8-point edge and never looked back. That is the turning point in this one. And to avoid this, I think you could just feel like, like the weight of this game on that 10-0 run, just opening the floodgates and knowing that the Pistons weren't crawling out of this hole. A couple of bad turnovers in that run by the opposition, an offensive foul call against the Pistons that JB Bickerstaff was upset about. But in the end, that's where this game really turned upside down for the Detroit Pistons. And when I think about it, it's an example of, we talk about maturity and growth with this team all the time. And can they turn it around and come back and get a W Saturday night on the road against a Golden State team that made quick work of the Pistons when they played at Little Caesars Arena? So that'll be a test to see if this team can not let this loss lead into, not let one game cost you two, is probably the best way to put it. So turning point in this one, the Clippers go on a 10-0 run in that fourth quarter and route to the win. Now, this one's probably pretty easy. You know where we're going with this, but it's time, my friends, for the player of the game.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
Such an epic introduction for our player of the game, and it's James Harden. A guy scores 50 points. He's going to likely be the leading scorer, and without James Harden, here we go, pointing out the most obvious. This one is the Pistons win this going away. I mean, this is a guy that put the team on his back. No other way to put it, because James Harden was that guy. 38 minutes played tonight, 14 of 24, 6 of 13 from the long line, 16 of 20 from the stripe. go ahead and give him 5 assists as well. He was plus 13. And as Special K put it, he's still got it. And a generational type player, James Harden is how he was described. And I would co-sign on that as well. So James Harden, your player of the game. Worth noting again that for the Pistons, just an off night overall, shooting the ball just 31% from the long line. Malik Beasley struggling in that category. A couple of open threes that he normally knocks down, but he was unable to tonight. And then other guys, Simone Fontecchio 0 for 3 from the long line. Dennis Schroder, again, he shot 9 threes. He made 5 of them, though, so you can't complain about a guy going 5 of 9. But just, not necessarily a stat line you're going to see from Schroder very often. But 37 points from Cade, 10 assists as well. And that's crazy considering that was somewhat of an off night for him. 7 rebounds as well, did have the 5 turnovers. But Pistons fall to the Clippers, 123-115, the final in this one. Detroit now 35-28 and 18-14 on the road. They're still 9-2 in their last 11 and will look to get back in the win column Saturday night against the Golden State Warriors. I've got my college basketball weekend, so no Locked On Pistons on Saturday. Make that show announcement now. Some housekeeping items. So no post-game show on Saturday. Back with you on Sunday, though. I'll be, like I mentioned, attending some college hoops over the weekend because, I'm always going to be in the game, just not a matter of able to do the post-game show on Saturday. So the rare occasion which there will not be a Locked On Pistons post-game on Saturday, but right back with you on Sunday, not to worry. Thanks so much, as always, for tuning in. We greatly appreciate it. Unfortunately, the Pistons fall to the Clippers in a night they'd like to have back because there's a 10-0 run in the fourth quarter that saw the Clippers outscore the Pistons 32-26 en route to the win. Have a wonderful evening or morning because it is past midnight here on the East Coast. Have a great time, and we'll talk to you next time on the Locked On Pistons Postcast. Make sure you check out the Locked On Pistons daily newsletter at lockedondaily.com. Check out Locked On Pistons with Koo and subscribe to Locked On Sports Detroit. Follow me on Twitter. Thanks so much for listening, watching, whatever it is. Have a wonderful evening. We'll talk to you next time on Locked On Sports Detroit.